and gentlemen, this race is for everyone who has served our country and continues to keep our freedoms there. Runners, to your mark!
Retired Major Ronald Watney is my father and one of the major inspirations for the Publix Battleship 12K. I had enlisted in 1991 in the United States Army, and my military career was very abbreviated, unfortunately. I was involved in a mountain biking accident almost a month after I had taken the oath, and that resulted in a medical discharge. And so I didn't get to fulfill my military dreams of following in my dad's footsteps. He was in Vietnam in artillery near the front lines of combat, and an explosion went off. He took shrapnel, and that's how he earned his Purple Heart. My mom was able to see him when he went for R&R, rest and relaxation. He was so tanned from the sun and the jungles of Vietnam that she didn't recognize him. She just looked right past him. Ironically enough, when they got married, they didn't have time for a full-blown honeymoon, and the day after their wedding, they actually spent a few days in Mobile. So, talk about coming full circle. He came home, continued his military service, joined the Army National Guard, and his last unit was the 1192nd Transportation Unit. He retired as a major after 20 plus years of service and was a absolute inspiration to me. The reason I enlisted, it's been a privilege and an honor to call him my dad and to call him my hero. I was driving across the Mobile Causeway and kept seeing this beautiful, majestic battleship and thinking that there was an opportunity to do something really cool.
The giant battleship USS Alabama obviously held a special magnetism this Memorial Day 1960.
The USS Alabama played a major role in history. It served in World War II for quite some time and decommissioned in 1947. Earned 9 battle stars defending from Pacific to Atlantic. It served as the home of over 2,500 men and women, which we get the pleasure here at the park of hearing their stories and learning about the courage to serve our country. And when it got decommissioned, they sent her back to Irvington, Washington, and sat there for a few years. And in 1962, the federal government had made announcements to destroy the BB-60. But Alabama's people heard that story and decided to make it a centerpiece for Veteran Memorial here in Mobile, Alabama. What it does here, it truly honors those men and women that served on this ship. It's a staple to our history. We inspire young men and women from all over, schools, families, international travels. Recently, we have one crewman. His name is Ben Teben.
Of the more than 6,000 sailors who bravely served on the USS Alabama, Ben is one of just 3 still alive.
Just seeing that sparkle on his face, it's truly special because the Battleship 12K is about honoring our military. And that's what we here stand for at the park. And seeing those runners come across and land at a memorial park is such a meaningful moment to see. I think it's truly a blessing to have that here at the park.
These were some of the men we honor today. They fought and died for the red, white, and blue that so proudly we hail.
My run story begins when I turned like 52. I had gotten to a point where I was like sedentary, not moving. I was like 80 pounds heavier than I am now, and I just couldn't live like that anymore. I remember the day I was sitting there on my couch, with my husband, and I looked at him and I said, I cannot do this anymore. I got out, started walking, started incorporating in some running, but I met some friends that were also kind of on the same journey, and she said, hey, why don't we try to run? And I was like, I can't run, I can barely walk. So we signed up for a race, and I did my first 5K with her, and when I crossed the finish line, I was hooked. Another friend of mine had heard about this new race that they were doing over in Alabama called the Battleship, but I wasn't able to do it with her. She came back and she was like, oh my gosh, it was just the funnest race that she had ever ran. So then I signed up with her for the next time the Battleship came up. And man, it was everything that she said. The energy is high, there's a lot of people, a lot of music. Getting to the Battleship, finally running and seeing that Battleship, it was an experience. When I ran for the Marines, my husband is a Marine. And then I did one for the Army, and my son was actually Army National Guard. And then my brother was in the Navy. He's the one I get choked up about, because he was in the Vietnam War. He went in right when it was happening. And I remember the day he left. Whew. I remember the day he left. He was married, he had just got married, and we were at my mom's house, and he kissed everybody goodbye, said goodbye, walked out the door. And I remembered my mom in one bathroom, my sister-in-law in the other bathroom. All I could remember was just crying, It was very hard. His time in the Navy was really intense, and he saw a lot, and it really affected him a lot. He's my big brother. And it was amazing to be able to cross that finish line. Like I said, knowing what he went through, knowing what he gave up, knowing what he experienced. 7 miles isn't nothing compared to what these men went through in the military, willing to give their lives up.
I was active duty military for 23 years, 9 months. In my career, I was stationed in Oklahoma, Azores, Portugal, England, and Keesler. 3 months after I retired, part of my heart completely just failed. I had to have open heart surgery, but during that process, while I was waiting for open heart surgery, my surgeons and cardiologists and doctors all said that what saved my life to make surgery was the fact that I was aerobically fit. So I had made a vow and a promise to myself that if running saved me the first time, running's going to keep me alive the second time. I went from, I probably couldn't walk 10, 15 feet to about 6, 7 weeks after the open heart surgery, ran a 5K race. Loved the running, it was doing great for me. Turned from a 5K to a 10K, and then just under 11 months from my open heart surgery, I ran my first ever half marathon distance. So I had open heart surgery coming up on 13 years ago, but since then I've run 4 full marathons, a handful of half marathons, too many 10Ks and 5Ks that I could count on. Battleship 12K is one of my favorite races of the year. The last 2 years, I've had the honor of being the part of the honor guard during the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem. I run with the flag for a couple of reasons. It reminds the active duty and the veterans running why that symbol of our freedom, the symbol of why we did what we did. It reminds the non-military of the symbol of the country. And another reason I run with the flag is to honor those who can't run and run representing them. As I get to the park, sometimes I'll slow down and just walk a little bit to catch my breath, because my favorite part of the race is when I make that final left turn and you're going that last couple of hundred yards straight away. And there's been a couple of years, I'll hold that flag as high as I possibly can, and I will see people and you hear people just start cheering and yelling, and it's as if everybody who was partying and doing stuff stops, looks, and I run through that finish line with that flag as high and proud as could be, just to kind of show everybody the freedom that we have, the spirit that we have.
The final results to today's Battleship 12K. From the Army, Charlene Godez. Jacob Simpson. From the Air Force, Christy Cleaver and Michael Rapp, thank you for your service.
When my dad came back from Vietnam, he was not greeted to a hero's welcome. I wanted to do something to thank his generation and all of the men and women who have served. And so in 2015, I founded the Battleship 12K. It's a loud, visible, very vibrant tribute and thank you to the men and women who have been brave enough to serve our country and defend our freedoms. From the very early morning hours where the sun starts coming up and people start showing up, and you see the flags being carried by Team Red, White, and Blue, to the very beginning of the race where I have an opportunity to say, I want you to look around at the bibs that people are wearing. And if you see them with a red bib, that means that they have served our country. And so you see everybody look around, and there's hugs, there's high fives, there's, handshakes, there's thank yous, just very earnest, sincere appreciation for what our men and women have done to serve our country.